Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com and RockAuto.com. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
And thank you, Alec Webb, and welcome everyone to MotorWeek podcast number 234. We're delighted to be with you wherever you happen to be. And with all of us today, our writer, two-wheel, and reporter, Brian Robinson.
Greetings from my undisclosed location.
It looks nice there. Our over-the-edge reporter, Greg Carlos.
Hey, good to be here.
And the lady behind everything you see about us online, our online content coordinator, Jessica Ray.
Thanks for having me again.
It's a delight. All right, we got a lot to cover. Vehicles, lightning round, a viewer question from Donald, rant and raves, if we've got all.
Oh, I've got one, John. I'm locked and loaded with a rant this week.
Good. Let's start with if this nameplate was a blockbuster summer movie, I can't imagine a publicist coming up with more ways to get everybody stirred up about it. We're talking about the return of the Ford Bronco brand, and then specifically the three models under two names, the 2021 Ford Bronco 2 and 4-door and the Ford Bronco Sport. What's the difference? The Bronco is basically truck-based on a frame from the Ranger, or at least based on the Ranger. And the Bronco Sport is based on the Ford Escape. It's a unibody. Having said that, worth all the hoopla? Should Jeep be running for a cave? What do you all think about Bronco and Bronco Sport? And, you know, if you want to skew to one model or the other, that's fine. Open field.
Yeah, I don't know if they're ever worth all the hype, but it seems legit. I love the fact that they went above and beyond making it an off-road beast. You can get up to 35-inch tires on it. It's got a 7-speed manual with a super low gear. It's got every aspect that you judge it. It beats the Wrangler, which was their target.
And that's the Bronco 2-door and the Bronco 4-door.
Correct. But I'm sure that Jeep has seen all of this stuff as we have.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they will have a response to it, which I'm also looking very much forward to.
Yeah, I think Robinson, you said it last podcast, but Jeep's kind of had their own market there for a while, and now that Bronco's back, it's nice to see some competition there. So competition always, speeds up the gains in technology. And if you wanted like a fairly affordable off-road machine, really all your only option was Jeep. So by all accounts, what I've seen of this Bronco, what I've read about it, I mean, it's serious, and I like the way it looks. I've never been a huge Jeep person, so just seeing this new Bronco, I automatically lean towards it. But I'm excited. I must have triggered Siri somehow, but
I do it all the time.
Yeah, and supposedly they made the it's amazing enough they made the doors and roof removable. Clearly aimed right at the Wrangler, but supposedly it's easier to operate than Wrangler. They got better thought out storage for them than Wrangler. So, I mean, it looks like they thought about everything. And even people like my wife who doesn't get excited about anything car related, she wants one already. She's like, that looks so amazing. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there doing it. Go ahead, Jessica.
Well, I am a Jeep Wrangler owner. So, I have a love for the Wrangler, but of course I can't say no to competition.
But what did you think? What did you think? All right, you're the quintessential target for what's going on with Bronco.
I mean, so it definitely seems like they thought of things that Wrangler owners have been wanting,
complaining about, like when you take the doors off, you don't have any mirrors.
Yes, exactly. I was actually going to bring that up because if anybody has driven a car without any side mirrors, it's not fun, and also it's not legal. And so it also just adds more components that I think can go wrong. You know what I mean? So like, for example, I own a 2008, so there's like a ton of torque screws lining up the windshield. And I don't even want to know what's like underneath those torque screws, rust over time because it's a 13-year-old car. So it's just, I think more components, you have to take off and put something else on. I think it's too complicated. And the fact is, sometimes you're out and about driving your Jeep and you're like, hey, I want to take off the doors, or it would be a perfect time to take down the top, something like that. So the fact that the Bronco, you can take off all 4 doors and store them in the trunk, I think is awesome. I would love to be able to do that, especially as a person who, like, I live in, I've lived in apartments for a while, so it's not really ideal to take off a door, walk it upstairs, and put it somewhere safe so it doesn't get damaged. So I think it's actually very helpful for people who might not have, like me, like a house where they can like put it safely in the garage. We've sort of thought about these things that will make it easier, and then just put it just a step above the Wrangler, so people really start to think more when they buy it.
And not to shortchange the Bronco Sport, despite it being crossover, that's probably the one that's going to sell. I mean,
that's what I think.
I mean, it's hard to say, but it'll certainly be more accessible to more people. And the fact that they're talking about basing the pickup on that one seems even more intriguing to me. I think there's been spy shots from Europe for like a year now, them testing an escape-based pickup truck over there.
Calling it Courier. They all thought it was going to be called Courier. Now it's Maverick, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that as well. I think the timing is perfect for a small, useful front-wheel drive utility pickup.
There's probably going to be 2 pickups. There's probably going to be a Bronco-based pickup, something like the Gladiator, and then this Maverick coming first out of there. The same plant in Mexico that's building the Sport. I look at the Sport, and to me, it's Jeep, XJ, Cherokee, and Ford Explorer all over again. Okay, it doesn't have as sturdy a frame, but the packaging, square, very useful, well thought out, lots of ground clearance. So even if all you're worried about is a little bit of mud and snow, you don't have a problem. Unless it turns out to be very disappointing in some way. I mean, we know the power is going to be adequate. I think it'll be a big hit too. Yeah.
Yep. The powertrains I'm definitely excited for. I think they inspire a little bit more excitement than the Jeep powertrains. And I guess the big question that everybody's going to be asking is, will there be a Bronco wave? Because there's already the Jeep wave where you pass another Jeep. and will that wave extend not just from the Bronco, but up to the Bronco Sport?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's actually interesting because sometimes they'll see Gladiators and they have to do a double take. Like that also is a Jeep. I should do the Jeep wave as well because it's basically. Well,
the Jeep wave.
I guess I don't know it.
The Jeep wave doesn't extend to Grand Cherokees and Cherokees, does it?
Right.
It's a real Wrangler wave, really.
Yeah. There are definite rules.
Yeah, there are rules. And what I also find interesting about Ford, and what I think is really smart, is how large a Jeep culture is, not just for the Wranglers, but for all Jeeps. I've been invited to my fair share of Jeep meets, of course. So, and the fact that Ford is thinking, and they're trying to push a community on the Bronco, because, I mean, this is going to spawn so much stuff. I can't wait to see all of the aftermarket parts that come out, how people trick these things out, and I'm really looking forward to it.
We know one way that Jeep is going to counter some of the publicity already, and that's there's spy shots floating around of what they call the Wrangler 392. In other words, a Wrangler with a V8. So I suspect that's going to be their first counterpunch. I don't think it's an accident that this week we're seeing all these clandestine photos almost totally undisguised. So.
That would be a very Mopar move. Just throw some power in it.
It would be. All right, I think we've got a lot more coming. A lot of people want to know why they brought out Bronco and Bronco Sport now. And originally they were supposed to show up in March. I'm not sure if it was at the New York Auto Show or just before everything got canceled because of the virus. And these, as someone told in the industry told me, when a new vehicle is being developed and the factory is being tooled, you can't stop it. It's going to come. So they were kind of forced to do this. And if we ever had a doubt on how a car company was going to do a mega launch without a big auto show, I think we just got a very good lesson. I don't know about you, but I must have had 50 emails about Bronco. If you were on the West Coast, you were lucky enough to actually go out during that. Some of the journalists there got to go out and actually be with them while they were shooting all that B-roll and get to actually touch the metal. We're on the East Coast, so there was a small showing in Washington. That was about all we got. But still, from every angle, it looks pretty impressive. And now it's up to, can't wait till we get a chance to drive them. Let's move on to another vehicle, which is totally different. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Robinson, Nissan Ariya?
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
I should have probably looked up what some astute person said on YouTube, but this is Nissan's first crossover, and it marks a somewhat of a departure from the Leaf in that they're actually calling it a crossover, where the Leaf was a hatchback, but it does have the more traditional shape of a crossover. They're hoping to get back at the top of their game. It's got two choices of power, 65 and I think 80 plus kilowatts. I could be wrong on the second one. But anyway, they're looking at 230 to standard, more or less range, and maybe a little over 300 with the extended range model, and all-wheel drive. So with that said, too little, too late? Is it a serious player? After all, Leaf sort of started the mass market EV craze, if you can call it that.
Yeah, I'd say it's perfect timing. I mean, they kind of were working towards it. They added all-wheel drive a little while ago, and now with this, straight up calling it a crossover, I mean, it doesn't look that much different than the current Leaf. It's a little higher ground clearance, much bigger wheels. And you were right about the numbers at 63 and 87. I think it's perfect timing.
Yeah, definitely not too little, too late. And I think the extended range one, or the highest range capacity one at 300, I mean, that's the mark. We've talked about
the new mark.
Yeah,
right.
You know, we've talked about higher numbers, what'll really convince people that this is a viable everyday car. But 300, I think, is the mark right now. You can sell a EV for between 30 and 40 grand. This is probably, I think, going to be closer to 45 probably, but around 300 miles of range. And you get all the safety stuff with Nissan. I think they're rolling out their new semi-autonomous system. So, you know, they're going to compete with Tesla, the Model Y. It's right in that range.
Yeah.
I don't think people are really going to cross shop between the two, because you have your Tesla fans and then you have your people who just want an EV for what they can afford. So I think it's exciting. It's great for Nissan. They really need something like this. And the fact that the Leaf is a good car. We all like the Leaf. And I think they're going to do a nice job with this one.
Jess, anything?
I mean, yeah, we've talked about it so many times that cars are kind of going by the wayside and everybody wants something bigger. So I don't think it's too little, too late at all. It is good timing, because if they didn't start offering it soon, then they would be way behind. I mean, we know SUV sales are up, and I agree. A 300-mile range is a good place. I mean, I get 300 miles on it whenever I fill up my Jeep, you know. So for me, like, that's sort of I think a good place for people who they might live right outside of metropolitan areas, who are worried a little bit more about, you know, fueling their EV. So no, I think I'm excited to see it in person and to drive it.
I think the interior looks kind of interesting. It's kind of like a cross between Leaf and the Tesla Model Y. It's pretty clean with a fairly good size screen, not as big as Tesla, but still enough redundant controls to to make it feel comfortable for most people. It's interesting, in 3 years, that's 3 years ago when the Bolt came out, the benchmark was 200, now it's 300, and they're already talking about the new pickup from GM being 600. So we are accelerating the range rather quickly. If you are, this is something I occupy part of my time with, looking at used EVs, and a used 100+ range EV now, just even 2 years old, that probably cost before incentives $30,000 to $35,000. They're $12,000 and $13,000 asking price on the internet now, and this is from people like Carfax and Auto Trader, and I'm sure they are having a very hard time selling them. But it's kind of interesting, if you wanted to put your toe in the water and see if you could live with an EV as a city car, you can actually do it really, really cheaply right now. So, and I mean, I'm talking about vehicles with 6, 7, 8, 10,000 miles on them, selling for asking price a third of what they were new. So,
yeah, there's a bunch here in our area of the Fiat 500Es.
Yes.
Granted, not the best EV when it came out, but there's a bunch of them floating around for like 10 grand, like you said.
Yep.
I've contemplated it myself.
One dealership bought bunches of them out of California and brought them back east here. And I saw one, I guess when they had most of them in stock, they were asking, it was $7,000 for something with like 10,000 miles on it. It was like ridiculous. Yeah, me too.
But back to the Nissan, the screen's not as big, but it is more traditional, horizontal, not the tablet. And
right.
It's very similar to Mercedes twin screen system, where they got the center kind of blends right into the gauges, which I think is fabulous.
Yeah, I thought it was a very nice looking interior. I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to, it's interesting, they did the concept, and they're even calling this one that they've shown sort of a concept. So we don't know what we're going to get here exactly. They're going to start selling it in Japan first. I think it'll be sometime next year before we see it, but I'm pretty impressed. More traditional, something you can buy right now. Why didn't they do this sooner? The 2020 Honda CR-V Hybrid. Great vehicle. We all know it's a great vehicle. You turn around and now make it extra fuel efficient. Again, why do you think they waited 2 years plus after they already launched it elsewhere? And is it worth the extra money? Mr. Robinson, I'm going to turn to you first.
Oh, those are all very big questions that I don't have great answers for. But I know that they wanted to build it here, so it took them a while to upgrade their Indiana plant to build them here. I don't know if that was really the reason or not, but I do know it was part of it. It's interesting to me that the RAV4, Escape, all three of them are available as hybrids. All three of them, I think the hybrid is my preferred version of them.
Mm-hmm.
And but they're all specs, they're all so similar. This is the same system that's in the Accord hybrid. So it wants to run off of the electric motor as much as possible, with the gas engine being kind of a generator. So
like the old Volts.
Right, so it's different than the Toyota system, but I felt it's very similar to the Toyota. I still may like the Toyota a little bit better, but I thought it was great, and it's, like you said, it's about time.
Yeah, I agree with Robinson. I think I like the Toyota better. I like being in the CR-V better. I think it's a little nicer, laid out better. It feels a little more upscale. But driving it, I give the edge to the RAV4 hybrid, especially at highway speed. I mean, I was driving around the Beltway, and I guess all speed limits are off now in quarantine state, because I couldn't keep up with people. So I was trying to, and which I was able to realize that at around 70, 75, the RAV4 is just a little bit better. It's not as loud. It doesn't feel like it's trying to keep up like the CR-V was. So like I said, I'll give the edge there to RAV4, but as far as style and interior, I think that does go to CR-V. And I guess maybe I was a little bit a little bit disappointed because the CRV hybrid won Green Car of the Year before it was even out.
Yeah.
And I just assumed it was so great it had to win by default. So it didn't live up to my high expectations, but it's still a very good hybrid as you'd expect from Honda.
Jessica, are you at all you're about as far away from hybrids as you can get with a Wrangler?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're of the generation that's going to be seeing more of these probably than internal combustion engine vehicles in your lifetime. Are you intrigued at all?
Definitely. I think, owning a Jeep, it's not practical. It's not meant to be practical. So
Meant to be fun.
It's meant to be fun, and it is fun. It's very fun. In the summer months, it's so fun. In the winter months, not so much, especially because I have a soft top. But so when I'm thinking about my next car, because keep in mind my Jeep is almost 13 years old. When I'm thinking about my next car, I'm thinking about something practical, something that if it's a daily driver, I'm going to get good gas mileage. I don't have a long commute, but I do drive a lot. So as gas prices will continue to rise, people want more fuel efficient cars. And I think it's kind of why you see I know a lot of people who lease them. And so there's actually a ton of CRVs and RAV4s available, say, on the used car market, 2-3 years old with relatively low mileage. That's sort of the sweet spot, I think, for a lot of young people in my generation who want to go for the hybrid, because it tags a little bit of a premium on it.
Not that much.
But not that much, but I mean, cars are expensive, just in general. So buying used, I think, is where for a lot of these hybrids, because you can also get, a nicer trim level if you buy used too as well. So it's definitely something you will see younger people wanting to buy. I mean, there's a reason why I know so many people who drive Honda Civics for that specific reason, because it's small, affordable, gets good gas mileage, it's practical. So these practical cars they sell, I mean, the RAV4 sells so many. I mean, almost, I think is it almost 1 million units? No, they sell.
It's number one in its class. So.
Yeah, they sell a lot of RAV4s. So practicality will win, I think, most of the time. But definitely, people will be very intrigued with hybrids as we, move along and see them more often, and likely, with, for example, the Venza, which will only be available as a hybrid. This is the future. So I think it's exciting.
In regards to the price, it's about $1,200 over comparable non-hybrid, but it comes with all-wheel drive standard, the hybrid model. And this is the first time that any Honda hybrid has had all-wheel drive available. So that's unique. And it is the fully mechanical system, unlike some that have just the electric motors in the back. There is a drive shaft going to the back. So it's a pretty cool system overall.
$1,200 is usually just the price of jumping up to all-wheel drive anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, I like the visibility out of it. I sort of wish it had some of the controls on the inside of the RAV4, but Brian hit it on the head. The compact SUV market, hybrid market, is probably the most competitive hybrid segment out there, because you can throw in the Tesla Model Y in that too, even though it's more expensive. So if you're interested in a hybrid, it's actually probably the preferred way to go. You get utility, the fuel economy, and everything. So, well, that brings us to our lightning round, and we want to get everybody's opinion in 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever it works out to be. And this also pertains to Honda. And Jessica, I'm going to start with you. Here's the the issue. Honda has decided to do away with some of their models because the SUVs are selling so well. I'm sad about this. They're doing away with the Fit subcompact completely after the 2020 model year in this country. Also, the Civic Coupe is going, although the hatchback is staying. So the entry-level vehicle for Honda is now going to be the HR-V subcompact utility. Have they gone too far? Are they doing, is the timing right? Was it just a matter of time till they made some cuts like this? We all know passenger car sales are waning. Volvo has shut down its Charleston, South Carolina plant because there's a lack of demand for the sedan they're building there, among other problems. So from your standpoint, Jessica, as SUV owner, would you even haven't considered a sedan or a coupe?
Definitely consider a sedan. But compact sedan, not so much. A sedan, maybe an Accord. Civic, I need space. You never know what you're gonna run into. So so I need a little bit more space.
So Fit would have never been on your radar.
No, likely not.
I'm pretty sure you can put more stuff in that Fit than you can in your Wrangler. So
probably it is a little deceiving. The back of the Wrangler. But for me also, I'm small. I'm like 5 feet tall, so I don't feel comfortable sitting so low on the ground. I just feel like I don't have enough visibility. But larger sedans and crossovers, I feel more comfortable and safer driving, actually, personally.
The Fit has more space than I think a lot of people give it credit for, and it's just a general better car than a lot of people give it credit for. I'm with you, John. I'm kind of upset the Fit's gone. I don't care so much about I don't care so much about the Civic Coupe, to be quite honest with you. But everything makes sense. I think it is a little bit too soon to get rid of that Fit. The HR-V is now the entry point into Honda subcompact. So I don't love it, but I guess I'm going to have to live with it.
Yeah, I would tell you a slightly different take. As much as I do like the Fit, having it and the HR-V was kind of redundant.
Yeah.
People come up, I can't get all-wheel drive in the Fit. All right, well, then I'm getting an HR-V. So I can totally understand that. I'll probably miss the Civic Coupe more. I mean, it's just been an awesome car for many years. It's been the foundation for a lot of really cool cars. So I guess they'll all be on the hatchback now, which is okay, but I'll miss like a really high performance Civic Si Coupe for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. But we're on the verge of seeing quite a few nameplates not offer any cars at all. And actually the Japanese and the Korean brands have been better at keeping sedans in their lineup because they're more globally produced than the domestics and even some of the Europeans. So, okay. We have a viewer question from Donald that I alluded to at the beginning. Why is it that the right front wheel always seems to have the most brake dust? Any comments?
Well, generally, the front brakes are used more than rear brakes, so I can't always speak to the right one being dirtier, but the front ones are almost always dirtier just because they get more use and that's where most of the braking power is going to. But if you do see it a little bit more built up on one wheel than the other, then that could be a sign that your caliper's not releasing like it should, and it's just dragging on the rotor.
You mean it's not because we just tend to turn right more than we turn left?
I mean, I can't say for sure. We should talk to Pat Goss about that one. But usually I think it's the simplest thing where it's just you got something dragging there.
Or it could be a sign that you're a Republican. I'm not sure.
Now let's keep politics out of this.
No.
Everything is not political.
All right, I think it is, but anyway, yeah, that's a good way to tell side Sidebar, it's a good way to tell, like, if you pay someone to rotate your tires and you show up and your front wheels still have more brake dust on them than you paid them and they didn't rotate your tires. But that's a sidebar.
And other sidebar, you should clean it off. Don't leave it on there.
Oh yeah, it'll tear up your wheels.
Yeah, it will.
Jessica, you just said you just got a brake job on your Wrangler and you've got dust everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty notorious for not wiping it off in a timely manner, because no matter how much water and rain and you drive in, it doesn't go anywhere.
That won't do it. You've got to do cleaner. It's
I feel like, are we sponsored?
And I've got a pickup truck that, huh?
I just feel like, are we sponsored by Wrangler now? I'm not sure. I feel like it's been an awful lot of
Hold on, let me
we have. Well, we had to balance out the Bronco, all hoopla. So
Jessica, can we get a camera on your Wrangler so we can include it in the podcast? I feel like it deserves its own box here.
I will send you some pics of it, because I have to walk downstairs and to a parking lot. But I'll send you some pics of it.
That is a lot of effort. We appreciate you going through the effort.
Yeah, just my job.
We did touch on something that's an important piece of advice to everybody. You really do need to clean off your wheels with, if nothing else, a brake dust cleaner or some kind of detergent quite frequently, because it is a corrosive dust that will eat through the thickest coating on any wheel. I've got an old pickup truck that I've been very neglectful about doing that, and it's absolutely a case in point on how ugly the wheels will look if you don't clean the dust off. You let it build up, and you finally clean it up, and it's like it's too late. So if you want to make sure your wheels look nice and clean them off. Every time you wash that car, get some brake dust cleaner or detergent and do the wheels by hand. Spraying them doesn't work.
Sounds like we need pictures of that as well.
Well, it's an oldie but a goodie. All right.
The people want to know, John.
Yes. What?
the people want to know.
Oh, it's a 2003 Ford Ranger. It's my little workhorse, and it's a great little truck. I just put new side steps on it, so but it had painted mag wheels on it, and some of the paint's gone because of the brake dust. It doesn't have it's low mileage, so it's like less than 40,000 miles, and I've had it for a long time.
Wow.
Now, time to our a segment of the podcast a lot of people look forward to, our rants and raves. Anyone have something on their mind they would like to rant or rave about this week?
Yep, I'm ready. I finally have one after getting out of the house a little bit more often now. So I was in the Buick Encore GX, which is the extended one of our test cars right now. And I was driving home, and there was a pickup truck in front of me loaded full of junk, and eventually a table fell off that was still connected to the ratchet strap, so it was being dragged and thrown around. Luckily, I was far enough back, and it wasn't too much of an issue for me, but there were people behind me. So in that situation, my first thought is, well, let's throw the hazards on, because people got to know things are screwed up here. Problem was I couldn't find the hazards, and I've been in a million different cars, and I like to think I know where hazard lights are, and I can find them if they're not in the same spot. Couldn't find it. I went through 10, 15 seconds of trying to figure it out and trying to pay attention to the road at the same time. Couldn't find it. I mean, the whole situation was gone, and I couldn't do anything about it. I felt bad, but I couldn't find them. Turns out that it was all the way on the passenger side of the screen, and it's blended into the piano black. You couldn't even see it. And I realize we're in different cars, but the hazard lights are a button that not many people use all the time, but it needs to be front and center and visible, especially for Buick owners. Let's not pretend what Buick is not. You know what I mean? It's an older crowd. They need to be able to see it.
Easy.
And let's start. Let's contrast it with the Fiat 500X that I'm in right now, the long term. it is dead center of the dash. It is contrasted. It's bright orange, and you can see it, and it doesn't make the interior look any worse.
Because when you need it instantly.
Right away. It needs to be right on even the column ones on the steering wheel column, those aren't good. It's got to be right dead center of the dash, and that's my rant.
That's a good one. That's a new one.
I agree with that actually a lot, because I've sort of run into a similar problem when we're testing a bunch of cars, and there was this part of my apartment complex that if I was dropping stuff off, I would always put my hazards on so somebody wouldn't tow me, just in case. And you spend like minutes sometimes searching, because you're used to a hazard in a certain place and from your own personal vehicle, and then so you're sort of expecting it to be there. So when it's out of that place, it's almost like you really can't find it. And I actually remember when I was taking my driver's test, you have to test all of your lights and everything. And so you have to test your hazards. And I remember being so nervous that I just could not find the hazards in the vehicle I was taking the test in. So I agree with Greg. I think that like hazards have to be front and center, especially because the time that I've used the hazards the most is in rain, and you already are like, you can't see anything when you're driving. Right. So you want something to just be there, so you just click it so you are as safe as you can be.
Take that, interior designers.
Yeah.
Brian, no fast comeback?
No, I got nothing.
No. So I thought he was going to give me flack about getting into a car, and I should know where everything is before I ever leave the parking lot. But
no, because
well, my argument to that is that every car is, sometimes the start button's up here. Well, sometimes it's down here. The windshield wipers are on a stalk. Sometimes they're down here. The lights are on a stalk. Sometimes they're down here. So I have a million other things to figure out before I can get to the hazards.
Yeah, I wasn't going to give you a hard time at all. I just was surprised we didn't hear about where they are in the Wrangler. That's all.
I couldn't tell you actually at this moment.
Oh. Well, I don't know. I would say, everybody, you're supposed to read your owner's manual, but half the cars don't even have one anymore. So, okay, thanks everybody. And I think that sort of wraps up our MotorWeek podcast number 234. Brian Robinson, Greg Carlos, Jessica Ray, thank you all very, very much for just doing a terrific job today, as you always do. And by the way, everybody out there, be sure to catch MotorWeek on your local public television stations, also over on the Motor Trend cable channel. Thanks to Jessica, you can find us just about everywhere on the internet. We have a big YouTube channel, youtube.com/MotorWeek. We're at pbs.org/MotorWeek. If you've got a screen, no matter what type, you can find MotorWeek. And thank you all for reaching out to us for this podcast and for the show. Till next time, I'm John Davis. Let me just say, be safe out there, and thanks for being a part of MotorWeek. Wait. I forgot to thank the people that actually make it possible for you to view this podcast. Jim Bigwood, our audio engineer. Greg, of course, is our podcast producer, and podcast creator, Bob Mixter. Thanks, gentlemen, one and all. Thanks, lady and gentlemen. We'll see you next time on MotorWeek.
You've been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com and RockAuto.com. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at MotorWeek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series, each week on your local PBS station.